now to the Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party, James Daly, who joins us on the show. James, welcome to the show. Always pleasure.
Hi.
James, I wanted to start, if we could, on our last comment here in the studio, and that is the propensity for this to spill out into real-world action. We've seen ugly scenes at the home of Tobias Ellwood inside with his kids, and Jonathan Gullis spoke out last night saying if the mob turned up outside his house, he'll be forced to take action. I wanted to ask you, James, in your position as Deputy Chair, what are the party doing to guarantee the safety of elected representatives? Are they talking to you about it? And also, what would you do if the mob turned up at your gaff?
Well, the scenes we saw outside Tobias's house were appalling and absolutely dreadful. This is a wider question. It's not a party political question, Martin. This is a question of democracy. And if democracy is now reduced to 100 people turning up for 3 hours outside an MP's house, shouting in the street, carrying placards with the most hateful allegations, and the police don't appear to be doing anything about that. These are real concerns. This is not, I've spoken to Labour colleagues about this. We cannot have rule by the mob. We have to have the ability for MPs to be able to put forward their political views in a safe environment. And what I've seen recently, which has been absolutely embodied in what you're saying, is an utter disgrace. We could have a discussion, Martin, about the issue, the very serious issue of Palestine. We're talking here about the safety of people. Can anybody in the right mind tell me how 100 people gathering on a street for 3 hours, shouting and saying appalling, carrying placards which had appalling images on, is in the public interest? And certainly when there's 2 poor children in there and their father is being treated in this way, it's absolutely appalling. And the security of MPs needs to be the priority, I think, for the House authorities and also for the police. Mike Freer, a great friend of mine, a great MP, a great man, he was going out with a stab vest, Martin. His office was firebombed. He's been chased out of politics because we are getting extremists, and they do tend to be, I shall say, extremists on the left of politics, who don't seem to have any issue with behaving in the most appalling way. Somebody I know in Mike's constituency said, surely if you disagree with him, you can vote him out. But to be harassing, intimidating and bullying is an utter disgrace. And we need to face up to this and address it.
OK, James, I need to cut across you there because on the subject of that mob who went to Tory MP Tobias Ellwood's house, Rishi Sunak has supported his colleague. The Prime Minister has just tweeted this: democracy is built on free debate, but increasingly MPs have been targeted by aggressive mobs for exercising those freedoms. We will never let those who intimidate prevail. It's paramount MP security is protected and our democratic values upheld. Nothing is more important. And on that note, James, I'm joined in the studio by our political editor, Chris Hope. He has a question for you.
Well, James, I wondered, as a deputy chairman of the party, what are you doing to protect people like Tobias Ellwood? Are you offering support? Are you giving him a ring? What kind of protective arm are you putting around your MPs?
Tobias has many friends in the party and many colleagues who are concerned about him, who are close friends of his. But Chris, let's get frank about this. This is not, what happened to Tobias. He has all of our sympathies and we'll do everything possible to assist and help him. But this is about every single MP in the House of Commons. You've been around the House for long enough. You know that we have plate and various other House protections. And there are some real concerns about some of the policies that are in place to protect members of Parliament, to allow them to go about their business. Members of Parliament, their families, their loved ones, their young children, they've not asked to be involved in politics. I have no problem at all, Chris, with people coming outside my office or coming to me directly or doing anything else. But I do have some questions to ask, Chris. I wasn't there. Why the police allowed this, seemingly for a number of hours, for people to behave in this way in such a situation where 2 children were present and saw this behaviour. It is absolutely it is scandalous that this was allowed to happen.
James, can I quickly ask before you go back to Martin, what's the worst you've experienced in Bury? Have you had taken any similar action to Mike Freer, stab vests, or have you experienced, what's the worst experience you've had of this kind of protesting?
There's people, protests are protests. Perhaps I take it, I take things on the chin and get on with it. But let me just tell you an example where things have come. That a practicing solicitor on social media said that my 2 children were collateral damage to my actions as an MP, a practicing solicitor. So let's just say that this type of behaviour is not limited to one section of the community. And the level of extremism and the level of anger and aggressive behaviour to my colleagues across the political spectrum, all of whom I respect, all of them are doing their best to put over a legitimate point of view, is democracy is under attack here, Chris. And it's a mixture between, colleagues will always support each other. Colleagues will always help each other, but we're never going to be there when the mob, and I'll say the mob, turns up outside colleagues' homes. And we need the police to be there to take the strongest possible action. And we also need the House authorities to realise and recognise that there are some real issues with the personal security of MPs.
OK, James, I need to quickly ask you, so let's just say the mob turn up at your house tonight. What would you do?
I would call the police, and I would hope they would come out. I've got 2 children. Are we really getting to the point where if they turn outside my house and start saying things and start putting placards up saying you've got blood on your hands and making reference to genocide? Tobias Ellwood has not got blood on his hands. It's utterly preposterous. Would the police just watch? And I hope they wouldn't do in Greater Manchester, and just watch and allow people to intimidate, bully and threaten. And it is a very, very, very bad state of affairs we're getting into when we tolerate this type of behaviour. Every one of my colleagues deserves protection because they're doing the best possible job they can, and they are putting forward legitimate views. And this type of behaviour, Martin, is as the Prime Minister says, is an attack on democracy.
James Daly, thank you for your frank and forthright opinions on the show today. Deputy Chair of the Tory Party and MP for Bury North. Thanks for joining us, James Daly. Now, here are the candidates.